welcome to the Supply Chain Advantage. We have what I would like to call a hot one for you today. We have Will Hopkins here from BlackBox Logistics, who's going to share a lot of knowledge with us. I know it. I want to dive right in, get right to the first awesome question, and I want to know what is the biggest threat to our supply chain in 2025?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that there's a lot of ways that I could go with it. But I think that the biggest threat would simply be uncertainty. So I mean, there's a lot of hot topics that people like to bounce around, but usually the things that really overtake us are the ones that are kind of unexpected, right? So it seems like there's always something that just kind of throws us off, whether it be at least for my organization in particular, we do a lot of domestic freight, so just U.S. to U.S. We're not doing a lot of international trade, but things like ice storms or like COVID was a huge one, right? Like that's easy.
Can't
But
forget that one.
yeah, new president, and never really know what's going on there. A lot of people are just kind of uncertain, waiting to see what it's going to be like. But we're primarily spot-based freight with small to medium-sized companies. So I don't want to say that we're shielded from it, but we're not as exposed to some of the larger organizations that are have more of the contracted freight and again are doing the international trade. We can kind of ride the ebbs and flows of the spot market. So
Yeah,
for us, we feel as if we're positioned pretty strongly for any market conditions.
awesome. How do you position? How are you like positioning yourself? I know that there's a lot of people. Resilience is like the big buzzword, right? So how do you position that?
Yeah, so we're hedged with the load share that we have. So we're not super heavy in contracted freight. We have a handful of contracted customers, which provides good volume for us to build some structure around. But
Yeah.
the majority of our business is that spot freight, right? So if rates were to shoot up really quickly, which tends to happen if and when a market rebounds, the contracted rates lag. So brokerages might experience compressed margins or even short-term losses, but we're not really exposed to that because again, it's spot freight with small to medium-sized shippers. So the price last week isn't really relevant to the price this week, so we can price it on the spot. So ultimately, if and when rates go up, it's good for us because say if we're operating at a 15% spread, 15% of 3,000 is more than 15% of 2,500. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So are you kind of you kind of go with the freedom model? Like I can do whatever I want. I don't have any obligations. So if things change, I can change with it, right? Just building that adaptability.
So I would say we do have obligations, right? But we're not obligations in the sense that if we say we're going to take care of a shipment, we're going to take care of it, even if that means that maybe we mispriced it or situations arise where we have to take a loss
Yeah.
on. We're going to get moved if we commit
Okay.
to something. But again, we're not working a whole hell of a lot of enterprise shippers where they're expecting us to hold the same rates for say a quarter or even biannually, something like that. So we have obligations, but they're short-term obligations in a shipment sense. They're long-term obligations from a customer service
Okay.
perspective. So it's
So for those that don't do freight brokerage, right? Maybe we've got some other individuals that are watching. What what are you watching to get all those loads? Or do you just know 10,000 people?
when you say what am I watching to get those lows, you mean where are we getting the customers from?
Yeah. Or do you
Yeah,
just know 10,000 people and you just give everybody a phone call in the morning?
yeah, man. I wish I knew 10,000 people. Business would be booming. Maybe we get customers in a variety of ways. So when we started the company, we had brokerage experience from another company.
Mhm.
So we had some of those relationships from being in the industry, kind of knowing who moves what, and then the industry knowledge to be able to call some shippers from a cold call, and tell them,
Yeah.
hey, give it a shot. We're really big on referrals, almost call it web customer building. So,
Yeah.
we have one shipper, say in Birmingham where we are, and they might ship to, let's say over a 3 month period, they ship to 40 new locations. We're going to try to get in with who they're shipping to. So at that
Mhm.
point, hopefully we've done a good job on delivering to them, and then their customer respects us enough to work with us. So it's an easier end than if I'm cold calling some random person off of Google. Um, but we're pretty old school in the sense that we do build a lot of customers off of cold calls, emails, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, just cold outreach.
Just grind it out is what it sounds like.
Yeah, man, that's kind of how it goes for our new credit grade brokers. We put them through training, and we're there with them every step of the way. But they're responsible for building their own book, and we might have some accounts that we can pass them to work. But I'm not. We're not going to pass a really important account to the organization we've had for a long time. It's like the new guy that's like 3 months out. Sometimes I don't want to say sometimes they have to earn their stripes, right? So um, you know, that's part of it is yeah the grind, if you want to call it that. I love saying that. I love saying yeah they're in the trenches, like this like AC nice office building with their like three monitors and headset. But yeah, I mean that's how it goes.
I mean, it sounds like a really good moment of advertising, right? Where you can just, it makes you think of like in the trenches on Wall Street or something like that, where people are just like going bananas on the trade floor.
Yeah, it's been sometimes it's like that. So our we're split. How do you get into the whole operating model? But basically, we have one room. There's other rooms, but our cradle to grave brokers are all in one big boiler room style part of the building. So it's open floor plan. Everybody can
Does it
see.
have an awesome name like the Pit or something?
We call it the what do we call it? So we call the other room where the teams are. We call that the brickyard. And I
I
want
love
to
that.
Yeah, I want to say there's a name for like the boiler room, but I'm not sure. Most of my responsibility or direct responsibility, I have a lot of different responsibilities, but I primarily oversee the team systems, which is the
Yeah.
brickyard. Not that I'm ignorant to everything that goes on in the big room, but I just can't. I don't know what they call it. They've got a name for it. It's something funny, but I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
Sounds like we need a sign. We need a really big sign.
Yeah, man, we can't. We're not doing anything else this building. We just got done renovating, cost an arm and a leg. Thinking about selling kidneys and stuff. No more signage or anything for a while.
Well, tell us a little bit about Black Box Logistics. How did it start? Who are you? Why are you the best at what you do, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, man, I went to go work at a brokerage pretty young, a roadrunner agency, and I made some friends. Sorry, I got my
Hey, for everybody watching, this dude's always working, no matter what.
we just got walkie talkies. Forgot it was on. But anyway, man, I moved in with two of the guys there, and we all worked at the same company, and we would get off work, and it started out kind of as I don't want to say a joke, but it was kind of like we could start our own company. And then after
You
doing
do
that
that?
for like 6 months, we were all young, none of us were married or had kids, and we were all good at what we did, right? So we thought we could do it, and we kind of were talking. It's like, hey, if we're gonna take a chance on something like this, like now's the time. No better point in our lives, again, because if it were to not work out, like I don't have a wife and kids or like a house, like I'm pretty young. I was like 20 years old. I was like, fuck, so let's do it.
All right.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, so we left that company. We were under some contracts which are pretty common in this industry, non-compete and a non-solicit. So we couldn't work on the brokerage side for a year. To get around that, we started a third-party dispatching company, which is more on the driver side. So for those of you who might not be super in the loop on what I do or logistics, basically we're doing paperwork and booking loads for drivers. Like we're hired by the carriers, basically a shell worker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we did that for a while, and then once the contracts ran up, we pivoted to the brokerage. We started in my partner's like den, living room, basement type thing. And so we're in Birmingham, Alabama, and again, we didn't have very much money. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any capital. We're bootstrapped, and
This reminds me of like the classic, I was sleeping on the shop floor and that's where I
yeah,
was.
it wasn't quite that intense, but we didn't have AC, and it was super super hot, and it
In
was
Birmingham, Alabama.
yeah, man, it was sweaty. And we
Man, I've been to New Orleans and you walk outside and it's like a dog's breathing on you. So
yeah,
good for you.
yeah,
Woo!
it's similar in New Orleans. I would say the humidity is probably not quite as bad, but it's close. But we
Oh,
did, yeah, we started out of the house, and we hired our first employee working out of the house, and that was 4.5 years ago, and we've moved office buildings three times since, running out of room, and we just moved to downtown Birmingham into a pretty large space with plans to fill it out. We're up to There's let me check Slack. There's 45 of us now. Uh,
Wow.
and yeah, we're I mean we're a third party freight brokerage. So uh, to break it down, we middleman large shipments. If you're not familiar with trucking, we contract out big trucks to move things for manufacturers or really anybody who needs anything moved in U.S. and Canada.
Yeah. You're the connection, right? You're the connector piece.
Yeah,
Whenever
we're
somebody says, "Hey, I got a guy," it's you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I try to if I'm ever out or something, I like meeting somebody and they're like, what do you do? And I start explaining logistics and I finally just say like we move big things on trucks.
There
Just
you go.
chill. Yeah. Um, so
And
yeah,
anybody watching, you can probably buy that merch here soon because I'm going to pitch him the idea of making that a merch shirt.
okay, yeah. I'm all for some good merch. Yeah, we're a people centric brokerage. Based out of Birmingham, Alabama, so we have some southern roots and really we put service above all. So I mean that's kind of our differentiator is simply the like we'll bend over backwards for a customer. As long as that loyalty is there, it's returned. We really will do just about anything for a customer and we'll go above and beyond if and when needed.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Like, one of those, it really gives you one of those homegrown kind of feels, right? Where you've kind of grounded out from nothing. And at 20 years old is when you kind of started, nonetheless, which is absolutely crazy. I don't know how you're not already in the Forbes 40 under 40, but I'm sure that article's coming.
That would be nice. I think we're a little ways off from that. Maybe if I knew those 10,000 people I call every morning for
See?
some friends. Yeah.
I mean, you're at not what? You're at what? 9,500? It shouldn't take too much longer.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully, one day by day. But yeah, so man, we're not super, so we're a young company, but I mean, we will leverage some tech and some tools, but man, there's a concept that I recently discovered in a book, and it talks about losers games versus winners games, and so if we think about it in terms of just say like a tennis match, if I go play an amateur tennis match, like I'm going to get all my points from unforced errors. Like I don't need to do anything crazy. I just need to show up, be consistent, and let my opposition, like hit one out of bounds or something. Like that's how you win a loser's game. And then like the winner's game, that would be say I'm playing a professional tennis match. I need to go out and hit these bold shots and these crazy moves. So if I'm in a loser's game, playing an amateur's game, and like a winner's game platform, I'm going to lose. But the majority of what we do is a loser's game, and
Yeah.
I don't mean that like we're losers. I mean that like our biggest superpower is simply showing up every day and being consistent and doing what we say we're going to do. And that alone separates us from about three-fourths of our competition. And it's one of those things. If you show up, you're steady, you're consistent, you're doing what you need to do, then like things just kind of have a way of working out. So
Yeah.
we don't overcomplicate it. We're pretty straightforward and yeah, we're not doing anything too crazy, right? We're not like an AI brokerage. We're just doing what we say we're going to do.
It's just you running 10,000 trucks a day and AI does the rest, right?
Yeah, yeah, but don't tell anybody that. Can't tell everybody you have AI doing everything, so they just think that you're just this like crazy efficient human being.
Yeah, like how does this guy get all this stuff done? Oh, no,
Yeah,
I
you're
think
like, yeah, I don't sleep.
I don't either. I hear you. So what's really striking, right, is you hear it, but people don't think about it. Just doing things simple, keeping things simple, it sounds easy, but it's not, right? If it were easy, everyone would do it, show up to work every day. Like, oh, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
But, it's not easy, right? Some things come up here, things come up there, things happen. And that's really it's a good model to go on. It's a simple model, but it's not an easy model to execute.
yeah,
Um,
man, we're not perfect there. It's not to say that we don't have times where, man, it's really easy to show up and be consistent when things are good. But with anything, especially a startup, there's going to be times of confusion and chaos. And we want to make as much order out of that chaos as we can. But there's times where we show up and it's not super certain. And things are ambiguous or they can be hard, right? So just showing up and doing the best you can will get you through or has gotten us through all those tough times.
yeah, that's awesome. So I'm gonna move on to my favorite part of the show. I'm gonna do an icebreaker, but I
Okay.
don't prep you for this.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of icebreakers out here, and
Okay.
I'm looking at them on the screen because you can't see them. So you get to pick a number 1 through 5, and that's what we're gonna do.
Okay. We'll go four.
Number four. All right, this is called Guess the City. Guess the
Okay.
City is I'm gonna give you kind of a nickname, like the Big Easy for New Orleans, and you're gonna guess the city. There's a couple of easy ones, a couple ones that aren't so easy.
Oh man, I thought they're all gonna be pretty tough for me. I don't know these city nicknames. I got. What about the Magic City? Do you know where that is?
That is that Miami?
No, it's Birmingham.
I give up.
Nobody really, nobody really knows. It's we have Magic City like average, like it's a Birmingham thing, but nobody outside of Birmingham agrees with it. Like people from Nashville coming up, like, yeah, the Magic City, and they're like, I'm still looking for the magic. I was like, dude, it's everywhere.
The, it's like the song, "The magic is in you."
Yeah, exactly. Magic's what you make of it.
So, well, I'll throw you a softball first. So, Music City, that's an easy one, right?
Memphis,
Nashville,
Nashville.
Nashville. You're pretty close. Like, I'll give you that one.
Damn.
Emerald City,
Somewhere in Florida. Am I close? Am I hot? Warm?
very cold.
Very cold? Is it Northeast?
No.
Dude, just tell me. I don't know.
So this is Seattle. This is where we are. Emerald City
Okay.
is Seattle.
I did that.
Um, this one is a layup. This one's 100% a layup.
And I don't like how you're going into it saying it's a layup. It's super easy. I mean, I have no idea.
This one's a layup. I'll be shocked if you don't get this one. The Windy City.
Chicago.
Yes, bingo. See, I knew it.
Yeah.
This one might be good because it's around you. I'll give you that much. The Big Peach.
Atlanta.
Yep.
Okay.
This one I thought was hard, but you might not think so. Brick City.
Oh, man. Jeez. Is it in the Northeast?
Uh-huh.
Is it in Pennsylvania?
Little farther east.
I don't know, man. I couldn't call it.
Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that one. I don't,
I I had to look that one up because I was like, I have no idea. So
yeah, I don't know anything about Newark. I
I
didn't
have
even
the
know that.
advantage of knowing it because I looked him up.
Yeah, I didn't know it was New York. That's not where I was going with New York's little brother sister. So yeah, whatever. I got a couple of them. I'll
You
take
got
it.
a couple of them. Like I said, I some of these are hard and some of these are easier.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, that's my favorite part because we get to have a little bit of fun.
yeah, it's great.
So our I'm noticing supply chain is just changing and it's getting more focused on customization, personalization, customer experience. How are you delivering that exceptional customer service at scale with so much customization and personalization?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of that experience is actually stuff that they don't see. It's a lot of that technology is used in house to make our jobs easier with what they're putting on us, so that we can deliver that experience. So, I mean, yeah, we have some for certain customers. We might have portals where they can log in and see their shipments where they are, real time visibility. But that's more so a specific use case for a handful. But overall, we do leverage some automation. No AI yet. But some of that automation simply makes our job easier. So, like for example, man, building loads, like that's a big manual task for a lot of brokerages. You go in, it's just data entry, right? We're able to automate that, so if and when the details are sent over, it just populates in our system as a load. So that person is able to maybe, so like I say, a customer's email and they're not freaking out because they have 9 loads to build; they're already built, so they can focus on that customer service. So a lot of that stuff is simply makes our life easier, so that we are able to be present for the customer. Whereas maybe previously, if and when we got really busy, people were kind of, we talked about pre-show. We're like, a lot's going on. My hands are sweaty trying to figure something out. So it's that workflow. A lot of that stuff. It just it increases efficiency in house, which in turn makes us better at what we do, and provides better customer experience. But yeah, and we have the basic tools like tracking and all that good stuff. But really, I think that what separates us is kind of the intangibles of responding quickly. So man, like within 5 minutes of an email from a customer, like we're responding. Like that's an organization wide SOP. Like it doesn't even matter if a customer asks us something, we don't immediately have an answer. We're going to say checking on this now. We'll get back to you shortly. Something so they know that we're on it. Because man, a lot of people are neurotic. I'm the same way, man. Like in Slack, asking somebody to do something and like they don't like give me a check or something. And it's been like 10 minutes. I'm over here, like, what the hell is everybody doing? So little things like that, I think, go a long way, especially with certain types of people, that reassurance and that they can trust, if and when I reach out, that there's somebody there. And that they, like I'm important, like we make them feel important. Not they are important to us, right? But by us responding quickly and taking it seriously, I think that goes a long way. And again, I think that the automation that we leverage enables our people to be free to do that, where they're not missing the email because they're doing a bunch of stuff that a robot should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned efficiencies and you mentioned a little bit about time. And I think that's the biggest use case, right, for automating things is the time, right? I don't want to pay somebody to type in data. I don't want to pay somebody to do that. Let a robot do that. I want somebody to respond to my customer. I want somebody to analyze that data and leverage that data. That's what I want to pay somebody for. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, man. And the thing about the robots, like they don't like calling sick.
No.
They're yeah.
They don't take holidays, they don't call in sick, they don't have insurance, none of it.
Yeah, and like depending on how like you're running them, I mean they're 24/7, so we use a lot for. I mean beyond some of the data entry and whatnot, we've been able to automate some pricing off benchmark. So what we do there is we take this tribal knowledge from somebody who's been doing this for a long time. Like I built out a lot of our pricing logic with the automation. So previously, I might have all these new reps coming in like, hey, help me quote this, and I'm running them through the logic of like, hey, this is what we look at, we get this, and then we percent like all these areas that we're pulling, we're able to build that out through like an in-house GUI. So any pricing that comes across their desk, they can go to our portal and type it all in, and it's running it through exactly how we would want them to price it. So I mean, that's another use case where not only is it saving
Yeah.
the time, but also like the time, energy, and money on investing in people to get them that knowledge. You take in tribal knowledge and made it institutional knowledge at their fingertips, and that's not only is it super efficient because we don't have to train them on that, like we've just given it to them, but like also to be frank, like it's more accurate.
Yeah.
It's yeah, dude, it's great. And like the crazy thing is, and it's semi ironic because we are such a young company. When we first got started, we not that we were tech opposed, we were ignorant to it, man. Where I worked at before, we didn't even have things like Carrier 401. And if anybody listening, if you're not aware of kind of like the ins and outs of logistics, it's like the base model of carrier vetting. So basically making sure like who I book on this load is not a scammer. So previously, like I'm booking all these loads, like having to rebook them 9 times, like hating my life. And I'm just like, yeah, it's just part of it. It's just great. But no, actually, just like we were just like didn't know what we were doing, and like nobody was there. So we started BlackBox. We like found all this stuff. So we started like with some very base things, and then
Yeah.
people that do automation being exposed to it, we've been able to come a super long way. But getting started out, we were, I mean, like tech, man, like cavemen, to be honest with.
Reminds me of that scene from Zoolander where he goes, "Where'd all the files go?" when they break the computer open.
Yeah, exactly. But we've come a long way. I'm very proud of the progress that we've made with the I don't know, just kind of like living in a digital world with all these tools that we can leverage. So it's been
Yeah,
good to us.
absolutely. So everybody's talking about this freight recession that's going to end and it's starting to end and we're going to see some uptick. Have you seen that start to happen, or do you think that's all like we're right at the cusp, or what are you seeing from your experience?
Man, so that's I don't know, man. That's one of those things where I used to get really tied up in it and look at all these indicators and be making all these predictions. And then I don't know, about like 6 to 9 months ago, I finally was like, we're just gonna like worry about in-house. Like what are we doing? So we have seen an uptick, but I don't think it's indicative of the market as a whole. I think that we're taking load share from other companies, so we're seeing our volume in revenue go up. We're also onboarding, so we're growing, right? But I don't think that that's in correlation with the market as a whole. Like we're not seeing much change in rates per se, but like we are seeing more volume. But again, I think that's just because we're going out and getting and maybe taking it from other people, and also like we don't. So freight recession, right? Like we don't like our people have no idea. We tell them it's like a bull market, or like, like it's like time to go get it, like all the time. Like it's not bad. Like because I think that's very powerful, that mindset. That the way I imagine it is, if I go into office as a new broker, right, and maybe my operations manager is sitting over there like looking kind of sad. He's like, dude, I'm just waiting for this freight recession to end. It's like, okay, like now I have an excuse. Like I'm not expecting to land customers or to make anything happen because it's a freight
Yeah.
recession.
Yeah.
So kind of go with the mindset that, and again, we are positioned to take advantage of things like this because we're a smaller company and we're small to medium sized business, so we're not. Uh, Man, it's we're a little bit different than like some of these larger players. So yeah, we just kind of like tell everybody all the time, like it's hunting season. We're gonna get customers in any market, and we've been able to do that. And again, yeah, I think that just the man, that's just like such a slippery slope. If we go like at least in house, we start telling everybody like like, things are bad out there, that everybody's like has an excuse or is expecting, like we don't want to lower our standards because of externals. Um, so I don't know. I think it'll pick up, but we
Yeah.
are picking up. But as a whole, right, like it's been so long. I've heard so many predictions where it's like, hey, like this like indicator here, it's like this is like we're back,
You're
uh,
right.
and then it's like the same thing over and over again. So I was just like,
We're back, baby.
yeah, man.
Well,
And
that's
yeah,
good lesson for anybody watching of building culture because that's how you do it. Again, we're back to simple, not easy. That's how you do it. You keep everybody hungry and you keep everybody pushing forward, and that's that b wisdom beyond your years. That's incredible.
well, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I mean, it helps us too, right? I mean, like me as an individual, not looking at all that stuff or getting tied up in it. Like looking at like what I can do to be proactive for the organization rather than like sitting here and like getting engulfed in all these charts and like what may or may not happen. So I'm a firm believer that you kind of create your own market to an extent.
Yep.
Uh, and then if and when it does pick up and we're doing what we have been doing, I think that it'll pay dividends, right? Like we're not waiting for it to pick up to take advantage. We're taking advantage of what we have, making the most of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, kind of as you're seeing that growth or targeting that growth, either one, where are you seeing or targeting the most growth in 2025 so far?
So hold on one second. Sorry.
Zach's always
Most
working, guys. He's always working.
I just man, it's just Slack. It's just like ping, ping, ping. But the most growth that we're seeing actually, so we started doing it's called project reactivation. So
Okay.
we grew quickly when we first started, and through that growth, it was man, it was a little messy. There was a lot more chaos than there was order, and man, like post COVID, like it was a boom, right? So we're onboarding a ton of people. We're getting started quickly, and again, I don't know if I mentioned this. I didn't have any experience managing or running anything. Neither did my partners, right? Like it's our first time. So we grew quickly, moved out of the house. This all us for onboarding quickly, all this stuff, and some stuff was kind of sloppy, right? Like I mentioned that we have these tools now that we didn't have at the beginning, and there was a good bit of, and we didn't realize it in the moment because we were onboarding so many new customers, but in hindsight, like we lost a lot of customers. The customer retention wasn't there early on.
Yeah.
So we kind of pulled all that data, looked at inactive accounts, people that we haven't moved to load with in whatever amount of time. And we're kind of going back through those and attempts to re-onboard them. So it's called project reactivation, right? And we've seen a lot of growth in reviving those accounts. That's been good. And then also, I mean, small to medium sized companies
Yeah.
that we're
The
always on.
SMB market, man.
Yeah, SMB, always onboarding those, and then through that and kind of like going back through the inactive customers. That's been our biggest catalyst for growth through. I mean, thus far in 2025.
That's awesome, man. What are some of those big challenges that you're helping those customers get through, right? Those new customers or those old customers that you're bringing back on. What are some of those challenges that you're helping them get through?
Yeah, so I mean, this kind of goes back to that concept of the losers first winners game. The biggest thing I think, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into picking a transportation provider, but ultimately the most important I think is consistency. So especially man, like when the markets in any market, people do certain things. When the market's like low and people are really desperate for business, they take a lot more risk.
Yeah.
And at times these transportation managers will get burned they're promised a rate or like this and that, and like the person doesn't come through. So I mean, the easiest challenge that we overcome for them is providing that consistency, and it goes back to doing what we say we're going to do and providing that service. And I think that if and when you provide that reliable service, you prove value, and then once you prove value, you can justify being a little bit. Not that, I mean, we're not like super expensive, but we don't ever want to be a price driven broker.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is we don't want the business simply because we're the cheapest. So by proving that we're consistent, reliable, and we're going to do what we say we're going to do, people will pay for that peace of mind. So we don't have to worry about broker X from this big organization calling in and undercutting us by 100 because like we've proven that we're reliable, and we provide peace of mind. And like peace of mind for, again, man, it goes back to like people are neurotic, right? Like like
Yeah.
if you can like make somebody feel at ease, like if and man, the way I like to think about it is like we want us to be the people that if and when a load's sent, that whoever sent it to us is just like, man, like we're good, out of my hands, don't have to worry about it. And if we can, provide that for them, then our customer retention's, I mean, it's there, right? And that's like that's the it's like such a simple thing, right? Like when I say you're like, what are like the big challenges that you're overcoming? I was like, man,
Yeah.
just being reliable. And like that's the name of the game for us. Like, again, I think that like the majority of being a transportation broker, it's a loser's
Yeah.
game. You just need to like show up, be consistent, and do what you say you're going to do, and you'll separate yourself that way. Like, man, like, so that's the thing. Like, if I try to play like the winner's game and like come in and if they have a good operation going, I'm trying to like restructure how they do everything. Like telling this guy like how he doesn't know what he's doing and he needs to change. It's like,
Yeah. Take these big swings.
yeah, man, play your role, right? It's like we want to be an advisor if and when we're brought in, or if we see something that's out of whack, like for example, 75 to 80% of our business is open deck freight. And a lot of times we'll get a customer who maybe is shipping full truckloads for something that we can like partial on a hot shot. A hot shot, for those of you listening, it's like an F-250 with a gooseneck trailer. It's shorter, they're cheaper, they don't have the same operating costs. So little things like that, we can provide value by saying, hey, like, we can save you like X amount of money by moving it this way, just offering ideas like that. But we're not really coming in and trying to like overhaul their systems, procedures, unless they like ask us for help or insight. But we're not, man, like we're not like, I'm not showing up to like shipper X is like, just like, hey, like, like, we need to sit down, like go over all of this.
We've got some things to discuss.
Yeah, we're just, man, we're playing our role. We're adding value where we can, and we're not trying to do too much in that sense. So, and it's been good for us. I
Yeah.
think that, I mean, like there's a quote is something along the lines of the simplest solution is almost always the best solution. So, man, we really try to keep it simple. We're not trying to like push anything crazy on anybody. I think it's good for our people too to keep it simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've been in the supply chain for quite a long time. You've got to have some sort of a funny or wild story within the supply chain.
Yeah, man, I got a bunch. I mean, I like two immediate ones come to mind. One, I'll tell them both. I'll tell them both, and I'll give like the shortened version. So when we were dispatching, the company is called Compass Dispatching Services. So we're onboarding owner operators of small fleets. We're booking loads for them and doing their paperwork. We got linked up with this guy out of Alaska, like an Alaskan trucker. So he runs from Alaska to the U.S. And again, for those of you that like aren't in the logistics realm, those loads pay a ton of money. And the way that we get paid as the dispatching service is a percentage of revenue. So the more the load pays, the better for us. Long story short, we get linked up with this guy. We're booking him on loads from like Atlanta to Anchorage, Alaska, paying like crazy money. The guy's like, he's just off, right? And it's like, but it's like whatever, he's an Alaskan guy. He's just a weird guy, like whatever. But anyway, we book him on a load, and his transit's sketchy. Like he's sitting in Georgia for like 4 days, needs to be in Alaska in like 9. It's like, dude, you got like 1,000 miles. We need to hit the road. Worst part is we linked him up on the load was a broker who is a friend of mine in Birmingham. Like I know this guy personally. I saw on the load board, like text was like, hey man, I actually have somebody for this. We hook it up, whatever. That's not the good part. Like whatever. He ends up making it to Alaska in like 2 days after he starts moving. But then he ghosts us. He's not answering calls, text, whatever. Give him a quick Google. And the guy's name, I guess I shouldn't name drop, but man, he had been arrested like 4 years ago for driving from Florida to Alaska on like meth, LSD, like all these drugs, out of his mind. He's on the side of the road, like trying to put his credit card in the gas tank. But it's all like it's like LSD, like trucker drives from Florida to Alaska. Saw that. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Not
Oh my gosh.
yeah, not going to try to collect from this guy. So I don't know. That was a funny one just because it's I don't know, man. It was just the articles are great. I'll send them to you. I'll
Oh
email them.
yeah, for sure. Share them.
And then another one, man. My business partner had a government load, a whole bunch of them. It was a project for. I'm not going to say what department, whatever. He had a government project going on, and they were power
Yeah.
only. And he had been trying to get in with this specific organization for years. So it was a big deal when he got in. He got like 10 loads. First 10 go fine. Give him another 10. Seems like everything's going fine. And then our office gets a call. This is when we were at the previous company from the North Carolina Department or Bureau of Investigations. Guy calls in, super FBI name. It's like Bill Brady or something. He's like, looking for Logan Dyer. That's my He's like, whatever. Two of the loads, one was missing, and then the guy had been arrested, or
Gee.
one of the guys was dead, and the other one had been arrested. And he's like, well, hopefully he's not dead. That's worst case scenario, right? Turns out that's not worst case scenario.
It gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, the organization called him and it was like, hey, we have a major issue. So long story short, the guy who's pulling one of the trailers, he tried to turn around in somebody's yard, rutted it real bad. The guy walked out, yelled at him. It's an off-duty police officer's house, and the driver gets road rage and shoots him in the face. Um, yeah, and then leaves, starts a huge manhunt, police chase. The guy ends up ramming through a police barricade into a cornfield, flipping truck and trailer. The trailer is the freight. It's a power only move. Um, and the company ends up having to buy the trailer, and the guy's still in prison, but
Oh my gosh.
they had this trailer outside the office for like a year. Everybody's looking, it's like, what are we gonna do with it?
That's
So
like
yeah,
the boat outside somebody's house, just kind of sitting there,
it was outside the office.
just like sitting in the grass.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was in the parking lot.
Oh
Actually,
my God.
they flipped it back, and we had to purchase it. But man, the best part about that is the organization. Man, he's all torn up. He's like, I spent 2 years trying to get into this, and this guy like shoots an off-duty police officer in the face. The guy lived, by the way. I don't know how, but whatever, it didn't hit his brain, whatever.
Oh,
Life. But the guy who got the loads from called me, and he's like, man, it's all good. Just nature of the beast when you're working with like contracted workers, like no big deal, and like gave them some more loads. Just like, it's
I mean, that's a
crazy.
pretty chill way to kind of address that. Like, no big deal.
Yeah, so those are two good ones. I mean, yeah, there's always story. This industry is crazy. It's the Wild West, right? It's the most regulated, unregulated industry ever.
Yeah. Every day is a fire drill in the supply chain, man.
Yeah, I'm in my office. It says this. Yeah, I get it.
I used to work for another company, and my team would send me that every now and then for those meetings that should have been an email, but they're chaos, right?
Yeah,
I would get that meme a lot.
yeah, man, it's a good one.
Fine.
My partner gave that to me one day. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put this up.
We'll hang on to that guy. So,
Yeah,
what is your big prediction in the supply chain through the rest of 25, right? Everybody wants to see the crystal ball, so you're kind of going with a different approach of just keep it simple, keep it moving, right? Keep the wheels on the truck.
yeah. So I think that man, so many things change in supply chain. I haven't been around for all of it, right? But from talking with people that have been in it a lot longer than me, there's some things that are timeless, and that's those fundamentals I'm talking about, like the service. No matter what changes or what tools are provided, I think that at the end of the day, like that's what this is. It's a service industry. So yeah, I think that there will be some exciting things coming out. There's some exciting things people are working on. And yeah, we'll look to see what makes sense for us to leverage, what tools to use. But we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. And I think that a lot of people go wrong doing that. They forget that, hey man, it's a service industry.
Yeah.
We're not just selling trucks. We're selling an experience, so to speak. That service I keep bringing up. So yeah, I think that my prediction is that I think that a lot of these exciting companies, and we've already seen a few that the people get really amped up about. They raise a lot of money, and it's like they're reinventing the wheel, and they might lose sight of those fundamentals, and it mean, I think that anybody that loses sight of that won't do well, no matter what they're pushing or what the idea is. As exciting as it may be, like not everything that shines is good, um, so to speak. So yeah, my bold prediction is that nothing really changes. Everything changes, but nothing changes.
That's like the first time I've ever heard that one. Everybody's got these big swings, these big things that they think are going to happen. That's the first time I've ever heard somebody go, not really a lot's going to change. It's just going to be the same fire drill with a different color flame.
Yeah, exactly, man. So like the past doesn't always repeat itself, but it always rhymes. So it's a Mark Twain quote, but it's
Yeah,
super relevant, right? It's like yeah, things will come up, and it might not be a repeat, but like it's going to be similar. And I think that man, there's like guiding values and principles that we operate off of, like these like razor decision makers, wherever we have, like whatever we stand on and we build the organization around will be relevant. And if we ever stray from that, that's when we get in trouble. It's never about what's going on out there. I mean, like, yes, it affects us, but I think it's more so, like how we react to it, or rather, how are we being proactive against it? But then when things arise, like how are we handling it? It's
yeah, for
such
sure.
life. Right? Like it's not about like what happens. It's about like like what are you doing with it? So yeah, everything will change, but like nothing will change.
That's amazing. Let's leave them with some value. Let's leave these viewers with some value. You guys get your personal tips from a top-notch CEO that you guys have just watched show everything he knows. What are a couple of things that companies can do to maximize their 3PL strategies, both shippers and carriers?
Man, appreciate the kind words. Those are good.
They saw it, not me.
Uh, yeah, I think that for anybody, so shippers, carriers are really, man, like anybody in any situation, I think that like seeking out other people's perspective. So like that's a big thing that we do, right? Like if I want to go to this place with this company and I haven't been there, but I know people that have, can reach out to them and kind of talk about some things that we're experiencing and like get their insight on it. As smart as I like to think I am, or like I think that anybody likes to think that they are. Like what we don't know is so much greater than what we know at all times, right? And there's a lot of blind spots I think that people have. So for a carrier, yeah, I think like talking to other carriers and seeing, hey, what's working for you, what's not working for you, and then kind of going in it with the mentality of, what can I take from this and like what can I leave? Because not all advice is good advice. I
Ain't that
shouldn't
the truth?
yeah, I shouldn't ask people for advice and just like everything they say like be law, but I think it's good to get that perspective and like really think about it. If we only approach it from like our experience, our angle, how we're seeing it, we're missing the majority of what it is because we're all influenced by our own things. So yeah, I think that like getting that insight and seeing what's working well for others and applying it to your organization if it fits.
Yeah. And I think an underlying key to that also is do something, right? Like
Yeah,
doing nothing, inaction will kill you. So I think
yeah,
just the idea that you have there of not just seeking things out, but then apply them and just do them, see what happens. I think I just did a LinkedIn post a few days ago of a good idea that gets bad results. Still a bad idea, but you still tried something, right?
yeah.
Adjust it, tweak it, change it.
I'm all for that. Just motion, right? Like I think that inaction is just like a killer of like growth and momentum. And if you're gonna fail, like just fail quickly. Like if you roll something out and it's not working, pivot or kill it, or like kill your heroes. It's talking about so like yeah, sometimes you might like have this idea, or at least for me, like I might have this idea that like I'm really bullish on, excited about, roll it out, and like dude, it's just dog shit. Like it's not,
Yeah,
and like I've invested a lot into it time wise, just like intellectually, like emotionally, like I'm attached to it. Like, don't be afraid to kill it. If it's not working, kill it. Like, roll something out. You're not married to it. I
yeah.
think that, yeah, like a lot of, not all ideas are good ideas, right? Like, a lot of times you don't know until you try it. So, and then, yeah, you gain things from like rolling it out and it not working like that like data, intangible data, like, okay, like this works for us, this doesn't work for us. And it helps you make clearer and better, smarter decisions moving forward. So yeah, no, I saw your post. I liked it. I gave it a like. It's a good one. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So, again, thank you so much, Will, for hopping on. This has been really, honestly, educational for me, and I hope some other people learn some stuff. If you guys aren't following Black Box Logistics or you're not following Will, you're missing out on some really good content and you're missing out on some really funny stuff that he posts. So at least go to his page and check the funny stuff out. You guys like, comment, share the whole bit. You guys know the drill. I end it with that every time. So by now you should know the drill. Again, thanks Will and Black Box for being on, and look forward to seeing you guys again.